Hello. How's everybody doing tonight? It's good to see everybody here. Got a lot to talk about. Lots happened this week. A lot of things that we need to talk about. Some pretty serious things that may be coming up. And going to start it off though by talking a little bit about the new stimulus package that Biden was attempting to get passed, and just going to cover some of the details of it for anybody that's curious. It would include a $1,400 check for every American, and then more for additional children. It also includes an additional $400 a week for unemployment compensation. And it would also renew paid leave provisions that were not expected as part of the previous package. And it eliminates exemptions for big and small employers. This plan allows for up to 14 weeks of paid sick and family and medical leave for caregivers dealing with closed schools or care centers. And it would also provide a $400 monthly leave benefit for eligible workers. It's supposed to also provide $30 billion in rental assistance. And there's additional proposal that's trying to be put along with it that would give Americans, instead of the $1,400 once, a $2,000 a month payment. And this is being pushed by Congressman Ro Khanna right now. Now, there's another thing that they've attached to this bill, and it's raising the minimum wage from $7.25 to $15 an hour. Now, I'm all for someone making a lot of money, as much money as you can make. I'm happy about that. But, it's not the same. The environment the pay scales are not the same from one state to the other. The living expenses are not the same. And this is going to cause a lot of trouble, because what this does is also regulate tipped workers, people who have a alternative minimum wage because they work for tips. It's going to eliminate that. So the waiters, waitresses, such as that, who work and make, sometimes $30, $40, $50 an hour with their tips, that would be eliminated, and they would be cut back to $15 an hour. So just wanted to touch on that a little bit, and in case anybody hadn't seen, the actual details of that bill. And what I'm going to do is put a link up right here for anybody that wants to read a little bit more about it. I can find the right button. Yeah, I hope everybody's having a great Friday night. Hope you're having a great Friday night. I saw in a couple of the comments scroll by, I saw a couple of things about the emergency broadcast system, and a global warning type of thing. I'll have to scroll back and look at the comments exactly, and that's pretty interesting, because a friend of mine sent me a video today on Facebook. He sent me a video on the messenger, and I want to really I want to play this in a little bit and let everybody hear what this guy says, and I'll put the link up so you can investigate it yourself. But it's it's along those lines is what I'll say right now. Yes, Iran launched missiles today. Iran and North Korea that was two of the things I was going to touch on. So we'll just go ahead and talk about that now. Australian woman. And Iran and North Korea both came out with statements today saying that they're going to build their nuclear arsenal. North Korea says that it does like the agreements that it came the agreements that they made with the Trump administration, but now they want more. They want the ability to regulate their own nuclear development, And, that's quite concerning, because the parade, if you'll look this up, I don't have any links for this, but I was reading a lot about it, and I even witnessed it on the news earlier. But they were showing parades earlier from North Korea where they were showcasing their new missiles. And these are nuclear missiles that they're claiming have the range to now hit U.S. targets. And that's very, very concerning. And the missiles that Iran launched today, and Iran is saying basically the same thing, that they're glad Trump is gone. They're making threats against Trump after he gets out of office, but they're also saying that they want to go back into a nuclear deal with the U.S., but they want the ability to regulate their own nuclear programs. And somehow, folks, I see that happening. I don't think this administration will stand up to them. I think this administration will basically cave in. And if things continue down the path they're going, then I see these two countries developing nuclear arsenals before the end of the year. They're probably already there. We just don't know about it yet. And when we talk about nuclear war, that's one of the worst case scenarios. But it doesn't take a nation with 15,000 nukes like the U.S. to start a nuclear war. It takes a nation with one nuke. And placing that one nuke strategically causes a retaliation, which in turn causes a retaliation from another nation. And the next thing you know, we are in all-out nuclear war. And that's very, very concerning. Very concerning. Yeah, North Korea, they had a really big parade today. And the footage I saw of it, I mean, probably 40 to 50 missiles they claim are all nuclear. And they're claiming that they can hit U.S. targets with those missiles, with these missiles they're using now. So that's really concerning because Iran will use them. Iran or North Korea, either one will use them. And that was what I was going to talk about next. And I think that's something that we really need to keep an eye on, because we've seen how friendly this administration is. When you talk about Biden, you got to look back at the Obama years, because he was vice president for 8 years. He had plenty of opportunities to stand up to these nations then, but he didn't do it. Look at the way the world treated us during that time, as opposed to the last 4 years. Now we're headed back in that direction. And things are only going to get worse, because now these nations that were trying to run over us then have actually developed the technology that they can wage war with us then. So it's going to be a situation we have no control over. And unfortunately, I don't think our government's going to do anything about it other than cave into them and let them develop these nuclear weapons as they see fit. And before the end of this year, we'll be in another nuclear arms race, just like the Cold War. Except I don't think this will be a Cold War. I think it's going to get hot pretty quick if it does go that far. Yeah, you're right, Prepper Truck. And too many indications of World War III. Well, since we're on this subject, I'm going to play a video. Now, take it how you want. The only thing I can play is the audio, so hopefully it comes through. I'll put the link up for it also. And this is a guy talking about some information that he received. Now, this is, of course, unverified on my part. I have no way of verifying this, but I'll play it.
Some information that was sent to me from one of the Make America Great groups that are out there. An Air Force pilot received this information. He then sent it to his father-in-law, and this is what it says. I'm going to try to read it here. Just give me 1 second. And this is very important. People want to know what's going on. We're trying to give you the bits and pieces of information as it comes available. He says, we need 100% of the people indoors to see what the United States military is going to broadcast on everyone's TV sets worldwide. It's going to be very painful, but we can no longer have people divided. Around Sunday or Monday, the President of the United States will send out a message saying, my fellow Americans, the storm is upon us. We will go to full global martial law. He will most likely, the president will be on board Air Force One when he sends out 7 presidential messages to everyone's phones and TV sets worldwide on an emergency broadcast system. From there, all global military via U.S. military will shut down all media, that's internet, social media, phones, all TV programming will be all under one channel on emergency services. And so there, the United States military can broadcast 10 days of this storm, 10 days of sessions, 3-hour video confessions from a military tribunal. Lots of evidence for the scandals listed in the storm. While this is happening, they will be removing government, making global arrest, and this will be going on So Americans will be getting arrested around the globe, not just here in the United States, but in other parts of the world, and people from around the world who have participated in this, really this coup attempt against the President of the United States. So stay tuned right here on my app for more.
All right, I'm going to post the link right there for anybody that wants to look at that and investigate it a little further. Just something that I found interesting. I cannot say, that it's certainly going to happen or anything like that. I think it's highly improbable, but I guess we never know, I think it's more likely that we'll see martial law from the other direction than we will see that happen. Because I feel like, and, I really wish, just like most of the people probably watching this, I wish Trump was staying in office, and I wish there was a way he was staying in office so that we can at least maintain some type of balance in the government. But at this point in time, I think it's too late. Anything other than, the Insurrection Act, and it's hard to see that actually taking place. It's hard to see that actually taking place. But anything's possible, I guess. All right. Another piece of news today. I don't know if anyone, I'm sure some people have heard about this, but something I want to touch on a little bit more. And that's the NRA. For those that haven't heard, the NRA is filing for bankruptcy. And they're filing for bankruptcy in New York City because that's where they're based out of, apparently. And I'm going to read the article right here to tell you their exact words. All right, well, the Attorney General in New York, Letitia James, put out a statement saying the NRA's claimed financial status has finally met its moral status, bankrupt. While we review this filing, we will not allow the NRA to use this or any other tactic to evade accountability and my office's oversight. Now, we know that the NRA has been under attack. Come on, sorry about that. We know the NRA has been under attack for a while, not just the NRA, but our gun rights in general. And with these, and, with statements like this, it's pretty obvious. The NRA has stated that what they want to do is move their operation from New York City to Texas, and they want to initiate their, business again in Texas, but doing it as a nonprofit this time. So just a little bit of, of news from that aspect. All right. Guns. How likely do I think martial law is? I think it's very likely, and I'm going to get into that in just a minute. That's the main subject that I really want to talk about in this video. But I just wanted to touch on a few news subjects first, some things that do affect us, and it all ties together. Basically, it all really ties together. I saw a disturbing report earlier today, and that report was from Project Veritas. For you that are familiar with that, it's like an expose project where they'll go in and they'll use hidden cameras and they'll try and catch people, saying things that they normally wouldn't say in front of a camera. And they actually captured a PBS spokesperson with some I'm going to post a link and I'm going to tell you what they said right here. And when I find the right one. Okay. Right here. Okay. Now, this is the principal counsel for PBS, the public broadcast system. And I will post this link also. This comes from Laura Ingraham, her radio show. And it's a video that she posted on Facebook, but I think it's worth watching. It says, even if Biden wins, we'll go for all the Republican voters, and Homeland Security will take their children away. And he says, and we'll put them, the Trump supporters' children, into re-education camps. I know you can't hear the video really here. And then he goes on to say, in these times, which are unique, Trump is close to Hitler. Now, of course, I don't expect the left to, to come and take our children and put them into re-education camps anytime soon. But it's this type of rhetoric. This is what's really, it's damaging the nation, and it's definitely damaging, those who have conservative values. It's just disturbing the type of talk that we're hearing. Don Lemon from CNN stated that all Trump supporters are supporters of Nazis. And, and then he backed it up. He not backed it up, but he's doubled down on it, basically. Came back the next night and said, oh, I believe that. I believe that 100%, that all Trump supporters are, Nazi sympathizers or Nazi supporters. And it's really getting ridiculous, the amount of abuse that we're having to listen to right here on a daily basis. Every time we turn on the TV or we watch the news, and it's even spilling over into, the news that used to be conservative, which is Fox, and we're starting to see a lot more of it on there. Now, this is, it's showing us a lot. And what it's showing us is, since they took down Parler this week, and they're censoring all these other social medias like Twitter. Twitter's CEO, I'm sure y'all have heard this because it came out earlier this morning or maybe even yesterday. But Twitter's CEO was caught also saying that Trump was just the tip of the iceberg, that, deleting him from Twitter was just the start, that they're going after everybody who has those types of beliefs. There's a petition going around Harvard University right now that anyone who supported Trump and has a Harvard degree, and they're singling out people like Ted Cruz and Kayleigh McEnany, and they're singling them out, and they're attempting to revoke their Harvard degree because they simply are a Trump supporter. It's past freedom of speech. It's past that. We see that they are definitely taking our freedom of speech away from us. And this is something that we really need to worry about. Well, I hate to say worry, but we really need to be concerned about, and we got to figure something out on this. All right. Now, the video that we just played, or that I just played a couple minutes ago, that talked about the guy, was talking about global martial law. I don't see it, but a lot of people are referring to the Insurrection Act as to whether Trump has actually signed the Insurrection Act. The Insurrection Act of 1807 is a United States federal law that empowers the President of the United States to deploy U.S. military and federalized National Guard troops within the United States in particular circumstances, such as to suppress civil disorder, insurrection, or rebellion. And whether there's, I see a lot on social media, a lot on YouTube, a lot of the comments, and a lot of other people's comments. And a lot of people are talking about Trump signing the Insurrection Act and putting it into play. And like I say, anything's a possibility, but, I just have to say that it doesn't seem very likely at this point. I mean, he will be, out of office literally in less than a week. And the time is short. If he was going to do anything, I felt like maybe it would have already been done. But I guess we'll really have to see, see what happens. I'm more concerned with some other things. And those other things are basically what we've heard from the FBI and what we've heard from the media about the protests this weekend. Now, the protests this weekend are the things that really concern me a lot. And it's not because I think that, a lot of people are going to show up on. Matter of fact, I don't know anyone. I haven't watched any videos. I watch YouTube videos quite a bit, and I haven't watched any of the prepper channels and gun channels that I watch. Everybody's saying don't go. Don't go. It would be really stupid to show up to Washington, D.C. with an AR-15 in my hands. I mean, that would be basically, suicide at this point. Yeah, Christopher, I agree. After listening to Trump's last couple of speeches, it just doesn't seem like he's planning on, signing the Insurrection Act or doing anything to it. Yeah, FEMA and Homeland Security are literally the same agency. Yeah, they've almost merged during this, if you want to call it crisis, whatever term, would fit for that. But we need to unite, Gerald. I hear you. And that's the problem. That's what really gets me about what we see in this nation right now, is we see it divided along Democrat versus Republican. But for the most part, The people you meet in your everyday life aren't generally your enemies. The enemies that we see are the ones that are on TV spewing this nonsense. The most people are pretty cool, one-on-one with most people, and most people will get along. We need to unite, because it's not us against them. It's basically the government against us right now. That's what it feels like. The government and the media against the average person. Now, for that, right now, the conservatives are the ones under fire from the media. We're the ones being attacked by the media. But once they get done with us, who are they going to turn to? They're going to turn on the liberals at that point. So nobody's safe from their rhetoric, from their attack, from the laws that they can pass. And this is what's really concerning me about this weekend. It's not because I think there's going to be some big gunfight or some big war in Washington, D.C. There probably won't be, because anybody in their right mind is not going to step up in there against 25,000 soldiers. I know I'm not. That's suicide. But all it takes is one. Think about that. All it takes is one. Right now, our capital has more soldiers guarding the perimeter and guarding our capital than we have in Iraq and Afghanistan put together, and probably several other military bases added along in that. 25,000 troops. I've heard reports that, cell phone services were going to be disrupted and things like that, just to attempt to restrict communications during this inauguration ceremony that's going to be coming up next week. And we've never seen, or at least I've never seen in my lifetime, this type of mobilization in our own country. I mean, I've seen the hurricanes, we've seen things like that. And we've seen our, National Guard be deployed for national emergencies, true emergencies. And, we've even seen some questionable things take place during those, like gun confiscation during Katrina. And when I was in Charleston during Hurricane Hugo, which you're talking back in like 1990, something like that, the same things were going on there. It was martial law there. Military was on the streets. I know I was part of it at that time. So, I've seen it like that, but I've never seen it to the degree we see it right now. And to me, this is setting a precedence. I saw military all up here in Michigan today and yesterday. I saw military up here, the National Guard, and I saw a lot of them. So they're being deployed up here. I'd already heard that they were going to be deployed to the Capitol, Lansing, but I saw them today, so I know for a fact that they are going there. And this is like when they first did the COVID restrictions. Think about that. When they first did the COVID restrictions, they said, this is just for a little while. We're just going to lock you down 30 days, whatever, 30 days, 45 days, depending on where you live. And look how long that's lasted. All it takes is one person to make a mistake this weekend, one person to fire a shot. And it may not even take that. But if one person does fire a shot, then that person's going to be taken out immediately. But what that's going to lead to is those troops staying in place. The National Guard can be deployed for 12 months. So that means they can keep them there for 12 months legally before they have to rotate them out with the other ones. So they could easily keep those troops there for everybody's security for the next 12 months. So this is quite possibly a softening up, getting us used to it the same way they got us used to wearing masks, staying at home, being locked down, can only go certain places. So this could very well lead to something worse. Now, I don't expect, the military to come rushing into small towns, things like that this weekend. I don't expect any of that. I don't even see that happening anytime soon. But what I do see is somebody making a mistake. One person or one group of people does something stupid this weekend or next week, and that will keep those National Guard troops in place for a very long time. And at that point, think about this. If someone does do something stupid, because it really would be stupid to take on 25,000 soldiers. I mean, really, it's a suicide mission. But if someone did that with an AR-15, they already want to come after our guns. I mean, they make no secret about that. We see that on Biden's website himself. He says he's coming after our guns. It's going to start with a buyback. Then it's going to turn into probably a mandatory buyback. There's legislation being passed or getting ready to be voted on in Florida right now, doing the same exact thing with assault weapons, as they call them, and high capacity magazines. So anything over, I believe it's 10 rounds, they're attempting to outlaw at this point in time. Hey, Grumpy. Yeah, Australian woman. The UN is under China's control. The UN, the WHO, they pretty much proved that at the beginning of, the coronavirus, and so much happened there. I mean, we don't even know what to believe. I don't know what to believe anymore. Google, yeah, that makes sense. They're coming after body armor. I believe it 100%. Because body armor gives you a distinct advantage in combat. There's no doubt about that. If you're in a combat situation and you have on body armor, I have body armor. Excuse me. If you have on body armor, then I have an advantage over someone that doesn't. I'm not saying it's going to save my life, but it has the potential to save my life. And I do believe that they will come after that. Yeah. Anybody have any questions so far? Anything specific? Or is anybody from Washington, D.C. that has some hometown information they can give us about what's going on there right now? Yeah. Yep. They have attempted to ban body armor before, and I'm surprised they haven't. Not because I think there's anything wrong with it. I think everybody should have some, but it's just surprising because it does give you, a tactical advantage in a way, a tactical advantage. So anything, and this is, if you notice, this is what they're coming after. They're not saying you can't own a gun. They're saying you can't own a gun that holds more than 10 bullets, or you can't own a semi-automatic gun. You can only own a bolt action or a, single action revolver, or maybe a black powder rifle or pistol. So they're trying to say, well, you can still own a gun, but we're taking anything that gives you, an advantage if you needed that advantage. Yeah, banning is a defensive measure. That's absolutely true. Yeah, Tom, the enemies are seen every day on TV. For me, I wouldn't consider myself an emotional guy, but sometimes I get mad a little easy. And especially when I'm watching the news, when I start flipping through the channels, because I know better, but I'll still flip over to CNN sometimes. And it just, it just absolutely, I have to turn it. I can't take too much of it because of what they talk, the way that they talk about us, like we are the lowest form of life because we voted Republican. We voted what we felt. And last I thought that was our right, Good question, Christopher. Do I think the states that were stolen in November are more likely to be targets of this violence this weekend? I'm not advocating violence, but that would make a whole lot more sense than attacking the Capitol with 25,000 troops, wouldn't it? It certainly would. You just read the Boogaloos want us to have a civil war or American Revolution too. Yeah, I think that we are definitely being, pushed in that direction. And I think the media is helping fuel that fire. China troops in Western Canada. Prepper trucking. Wow. Refueling rigs. Ships off the coast of Portland and Seattle. I like that. You can't get order without chaos, I was watching a video earlier today. And like I said, the first thing I want to say is, I don't advocate just violence, acts of violence. I mean, of course, that's wrong. We all just want to live a decent life, a peaceful life. We don't want violence. But the person I was watching, I'm not going to say who it was because I disagree completely with what this person said. But he was just saying that violence is never a solution. And some of the people in the comments, because it was a live stream, were basically saying, well, violence sometimes is the only solution. And he was really going off on it. And I don't advocate violence, but there were some points that were made in those comments that were extremely valid. And those points were, every nation that's been freed was freed through war. When you exhaust all your political avenues, all your social avenues, all your financial avenues, any avenues you have, what else is left? Now, I don't advocate it, but I can't sit here and say that it's never a solution just from a logical standpoint, because it has been a solution, throughout history from time to time. If we look at, what was the solution to World War II? Extreme violence, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not advocating it, but I'm saying there is a time and a place for everything. Yeah, Terry, the cities that burned and their leaders have their hands out. And that's one of the things that does bother me. I don't think I mentioned it when I was just briefly touching on that stimulus package that Biden's trying to pass. One of the things they're trying to brush up under the rug is billions of dollars going to these cities where their leaders let these cities burn through these riots. Yep. Yeah, I agree, Christopher. I mean, it's hard to make a difference when we're stuck using their products, because when we look at what's been going on with Amazon, Amazon, in my opinion, had no right to do what they did to Parler. Not if they're not going to do, if the same action isn't going to be taken against Twitter and other places like that. Because I've been on Twitter. I don't really like Twitter. I don't even really like Facebook. I don't really like any of them. But, they're all leftist run. And if you go on there, and if I do a search if I type in, I hate Donald Trump, man, I'm going to see all kinds of stuff. Because when I first signed up on Twitter, under my Serious Survivor account, because I haven't been on there forever. When I first signed up on there, all of my recommended people to follow was like AOC, people like that, all these Democratic things. And I was like, I clicked off all of them and said, no, I don't want to follow any of these. And like Facebook today, Facebook, I thought it's almost funny in a way. I used to have a gun store a few years back. Me and my wife, we ran this gun store. We bought gold and a lot of different things. But I took a picture in there and posted on Facebook, because back then you could actually post that stuff on there without getting in trouble with Facebook. And in my memories, you know how Facebook will put your memories up there, say 6 years ago, you posted this. Well, it popped this memory up. It said 6 years ago. It said, you posted this. And it showed me a picture of the guns that I had took a picture of that was in my glass cabinet that were for sale. I was like, well, I'll post this. So I posted it. And then they took it down for violating community style. I'm like, Facebook, you suggested that I post this, and then you take it down. It's ridiculous. Good point, Heather. Iran and the amount of uranium that they have is well above the standards that were set years ago for that. Christianity will be labeled a terrorist group because Trump supported it. You're right. That for y'all that remember Obama, I felt like Christianity was under attack during the Obama administration, and I think it's going to be 10 times worse now. We're going to really see this happen under this administration. And it wouldn't surprise me to see, like you said, to see Christians labeled as extremists and terrorists just because we believe in God, Jesus. Terry, you named your cat Athletic Orange Cat, AOC. I hear you. It's eating a mouse. Nice. Yeah, I saw that, Grumpy. North Korea announced today they have a nuke that can annihilate any city in America. Yeah. And they had it on parade today, right down there, Main Street, wherever it was, Pyongyang, whatever their capital's name is. And they were running a big parade down that Main Street. Missiles everywhere. I mean, because I saw the footage of it, and I was like, man, this reminds me of you saw this with China years back, and you saw this with Russia years back, and now we're seeing it with them. Yeah, Mark, thank Obama for the uranium in Iran. and thank him for the, what was it, $800 million he sent over to him in cash on an airplane right before he got out of office. Yeah, awake. I bet those soldiers really do have mixed emotions about this, because, you know, the people that were out there, for the most part, yes, some people did some bad things there, but one of the guys that was arrested, and his name was, I'll tell you his name. Hold on. Sullivan, what's his first name? John, he calls himself Jaden X, John Sullivan. He was arrested in Utah. He was one of the ones that admittingly pushed his way to the front and instigated it. And I'll put up a link for that, so y'all can see that if you want to, because this is what really this is the kind of thing we really got to worry about. It only takes one. All right. All right, David. In my honest opinion, do I think it's all going to go downhill after 2021? I think it's going to start going downhill now. And, you know, I really hate to say that, because, you know, I'm 50. I sort of figured these years of my life would be like, you know, getting ready to retire, you know, enjoying my golden years, but it's not looking like that. From the things from the policies they're passing, from the things that we're seeing, and, you know, it's not only not looking good, but it's looking very bad, very, very bad. What are our possible outcomes, not as a nation, but as groups of people? That's a really good question. That's a deep question. As a nation, just quickly on that, as a nation, I think our outcomes is bleak. As groups of people, though, I think as people, we're more likely to stand together than this nation will stay together. I could see this nation fracturing and even falling, but I think the people that are close to you and the people that in general that you meet, you know, are going to be you're more able to get along with people that we meet on an everyday basis. It's sort of hard to explain, but I do think that, you know, if we could take politics out of the picture, if we could turn off the news and shut up the government for a couple of months, I think this nation might very well heal itself. But we can't do that as long as we got people telling us that we hate each other and calling both sides names, and it's on both sides. But right now, predominantly, it's the blue against the red. But until that stops, I don't think there's any hope for us uniting as a group. Mark, we're already at rock bottom. We ain't far from it, I agree. Just the state of our nation. I mean, yeah, we could look at the stock market and say, oh, it's higher than it's ever been. And, you know, maybe it is, but I don't feel it. I don't feel like it. I feel broker than I've been in a long time, you know, and I feel morally broken than I have been in a long time. I got people yelling at me, telling me that I'm a terrorist, you know, that I'm terrible because I simply believe in freedom of speech. I believe the government should be smaller than it is and keep its hands out of my business. And I believe we should pay less taxes. And that's really what Republicans believe, you know, for the most part. That's what we want. The government to leave us alone, let us live our lives the way that we see fit. But we're wrong for that, because we're not letting the government tell us exactly what we need to do. Tell our vision. I'm going to start saying that too. How likely do you think it is to be a disaster this year? The three things you named off, I think, are all very, very distinct possibilities. We're already being warned about grid down across the U.S. I mean, this is like making the news, you know, watch out for grid down. And I got an interesting site right here I want to put up for everybody. What this site is, now I realize it's sort of not helpful if the grid is actually down, because you can't get to the site. But what this site does is it shows you everywhere in the nation the grid is actually down. It shows the entire nation, and you can click on the states, and it shows you each county and tells you how much of the grid is down, how many people are out of power. And it's just something that might be, might come in handy. Yeah, watch the market. It'll let you know what's happening. Right now, we see the market going up. And as long as we see that market keep going up, then I think that, the outlook is a little better. Then once it starts taking a turn down, that's when more drastic measures will be taken. Your brother, Avril, your brother in the military, they training for possible civil war and China invasion. Rumored they're at the borders. I have seen a lot of reports, and I think Prepper Trucking was even talking about that a little earlier about, Chinese troops being within the, United States borders and close by, being stationed in Canada. I know that there's a lot that are actually in Canada right now. Oh, so and let me get back on that before I get off subject. Which of these three do I think is most likely to happen? Do you think we will see either partial or full grid down in the next month? I think we'll see, as far as the grid down goes, I think it'll be targeted. They're not going to take down the whole nation. What they're going to do is stop the communication in the big cities if there is trouble. Like this weekend, if there were to be riots and in these big cities, it wouldn't surprise me to see the grid go down. It wouldn't make much sense for them to take the entire nationwide grid down, because then they can't use it when they need to either. But taking it down strategically, because they have the ability to strategically turn it off anywhere they want. I worked at a company that built electricity meters. Itron was the name of the company. And this was years back. I was in their research and development department, and I developed the cell relay boards for them. And I'll tell you right away that you can turn off people's electricity from 50 miles away with simply a push of a button on your computer keypad. So the technology is there for them to isolate sections of, larger areas. So I think a targeted grid down will be the most likely event. Okay. Looked like my screen froze up there. All right. Now, going back to your question, I want to get back to your question because I did sort of get off the subject there. Which is most likely? Nuclear war, civil war, or economic collapse? I think an economic collapse is inevitable. I think that's, I hate to say guaranteed, but at least to some degree, at least a very serious recession. Maybe not a full-blown depression, but possibly, because we're seeing a lot of things being passed right now that cost the government billions, trillions. This new stimulus package, $2 trillion. We are so far in debt right now. I'm not sure how the U.S. will ever get out of that debt. And China owns a large portion of that debt. I think that a civil war is also a very distinct possibility. I think economic collapse is inevitable, and we're going to see that. But a civil war, I think, is a very distinct possibility because of the division that we're seeing. And now with the push to get basically conservatives, off the air, off of social media, off of sites like this, off of everything, basically, there's going to come a point to where people push back. Now, whether that'll be a full-blown civil war or just enough to have us all targeted as terrorists, that remains to be seen. A nuclear war, I think a nuclear war is probably the least likely within this year. I mean, it would be possible later on in the year, but I think what we're going to see is Biden is going to come in, and he's going to ease the restrictions on Iran, and he's going to ease the restrictions on North Korea. And once he does that, they'll take their time for several months, maybe a year, maybe even two, let's say, to build their arsenals at that point. Then at that point, they make absolutely no secret about what they want to do. Iran says it all the time, death to America, death to Israel. They say it. North Korea tells us, they're going to launch a nuke on us one day. So, I mean, it's inevitable with those two, whether it be just to start an all-out nuclear war. They may launch just one. They may, launch many. I think countries like Iran and North Korea would be more likely to try to target us with an EMP strike high up in the atmosphere with a very large payload nuke or an EMP-designed nuclear weapon. I think that they are going to, they're very likely to try that more than an all-out nuclear strike. But if they do that, Well, most of the military bases and the missile silos are hardened. So if that were to happen, we would retaliate, which would result in a nuclear war. But I think the first one we'll see is economic collapse. Civil war is, there's a lot of talk about civil war. And, some people advocate it. Some people are against it. But in reality, a civil war, that's a very, I don't know how to put it, but that's a situation that's going to require organization from both sides. Civil war without organization is literally just a bunch of small cells or a bunch of small militias acting on their own. So for it to come into a all-out civil war, I think we would have to see some form of martial law declared before that would happen. Yeah, financial collapse. Yeah. Now, looking at this weekend, I see this as like, with the mobilization of these troops, and not just because they're talking so much about Washington, D.C., they're talking so much about it that everything else is being overshadowed. And that's the fact that all the other states are mobilizing the National Guard too. And the National Guard is mobilizing all these states right now, if I'm not mistaken. And that right there is unprecedented, really. That's a huge mobilization of troops. We're talking a lot of troops here. Yeah, North Korea probably does have a satellite. I'm not absolutely positive on that passes over us. That's a really good question, live free or die. How would we draw the lines in the Civil War? And that's the problem. That's the biggest problem I have with Civil War right now, is that, who is the enemy? Because when we talk about, when we look at, the way this nation is divided, are we really divided as individuals? Am I really against my neighbor right over here because he's a Democrat? And the answer is no. I don't want to go over there and shoot nobody. The thing is, we have people telling us that we are, though, and telling us that we should hate each other and that we should get in each other's faces and things like that. And the average person doesn't think like that. So, how do we draw those lines in a civil war? I think a civil war, if it comes to it, is going to be more of the people versus the government, as opposed to the people versus the people. They want it to be the people versus the people. But I think in the end, at least hopefully, maybe I'm just wishful thinking here, I think in the end that it would be the people against the government. No, Heather, if you shoot a nuclear weapon down, as long as it is not detonated, it's not like TNT, or any type of explosive like that. It doesn't explode on impact. It requires, it's a pretty complex process inside of a nuclear weapon that causes one to have a chain reaction to do what it does. So shooting one down would generally disable it. Now, you may end up with a lot of radioactive debris that's fallen down, from that area, but it should not cause that nuclear weapon to explode. No. Yeah, top secret. No right-wingers or militias are planning protests. I haven't heard of any. I mean, I see these websites that are the FBI saying all these Trump protesters are coming with weapons and they're going to have armed. I don't know any, and I know a lot of people, and I don't know any that's going to anywhere to protest. I'm sitting home all weekend, and I think most of the people I talked to said the same thing. I'm not going there. I'm not carrying a gun, to engage with the National Guard. Yeah, we could really see this. I think we're in some really difficult times. We've never seen the world in the condition that it's in. I mean, there's riots. I mean, we're not, since so much has went on here, and that's why I don't want to say distraction, but how the media is so good at distracting our attention from what's going on in the rest of the world and making us look just right here. And that's what we're doing. We're looking just right here, and we're not seeing everything that's going on overseas. And right now overseas, there's some pretty bad stuff going on. We talked about Iran. We talked about North Korea. China is pushing their presence more and more through the Pacific. And, China is a real threat to this nation. And for those that don't see it, will probably see it before long, because China makes no secret. They want to be the number one nation in the world, the number one superpower in the world. We still hold that rank, but with this administration and the cuts we saw in the military in the last administration that Biden served under, we will not be number one in the world if he follows in those footsteps. Yeah, false flag. I could definitely see a false flag happen this weekend. I could definitely see that. And that's what I'm concerned about, because all it takes is that one false flag attack. If that occurs, the left now has a reason to leave these troops into place. They might not come out and say martial law is declared, but they'll come out and say, we're leaving these troops in place for everyone's safety. So then, they can start enacting more and more, especially with the gun control. They're already restricting our speech. The government didn't even have to do that. They use their left-wing social media platforms to do that. Facebook, Twitter, all the others, they shut down the ones that don't agree with them. You got Google controls the internet and YouTube, so expect videos like mine not to be here much longer. Hopefully they are, but probably not. Mark, that's very good. That's a very good point. EMPs, they don't affect cars like people say they do. And that's true. There was a study done. I wish I had a link, but you can probably look it up online. There was an official study done where they put, multiple vehicles in a structure, and they literally set off the EMP in there, to see what kind of effect it would have on these cars. And for the most part, all of them but one or two crank right up and ran. Yeah, there might have been a sensor here or there, like a wheel speed sensor or something like that, went out. But for the most part, a lot of the devices that people think we'll lose, we're not going to lose in an EMP. Your cell phones are already EMP hardened. Unless you got a really, really cheap one, your cell phones are EMP hardened. The things we'll lose, like I would lose my computer here, probably my TV, but my cell phone, most likely my car. Now, the more electronics your car has on it, the more susceptible it definitely is to EMP. But one of the things about that study, and I encourage everybody to look it up. I don't remember the name of the study, but I'm sure, looking a little bit, maybe I can find it later and put the link in the comments on the channel or in the community tab or something like that. But it's not the main computer in your car that gets fried from an EMP. It's the peripheral devices. I have seen a lot of advertisements online where people were advertising EMP shield for your main computer in your car. Don't waste your money on that, because realistically, that main computer is probably going to survive anyway. And if your main computer doesn't survive, then that means the EMP was much stronger than, ever predicted, and everything else is going to be fried anyway. So you just ride on your mule. I hear you. 1998 Buick included. Yeah, now, that's a good point. That's a good point, Utah. Is Prius electric vehicles. This study was done probably, I think it was about 6 or 7 years ago when I saw the video. It's fairly new at that point. But now you have all these electric vehicles. So those types of vehicles, yeah, you may see a big problem with that. But I would think that, these have some type of built-in protection. Military vehicles, most of those are going to be protected fairly well. And one of the things, a lot of devices in the EMP, and reading that comment up there about shutting it off and killing it, but would restart again. An EMP is basically just a surge of electricity, and depending on if your device is not powered, it stands a better chance of surviving that. The problem with the EMP is, we're not going to know it's coming. So it's going to be sort of hit and miss. Now, EMP is a straight line attack. And what I mean by that is, it's going to come, the waves are straight. It's light waves, because EMP is electromagnetic pulse. So it's waves of light traveling in a straight line. It will not penetrate anything stronger than 13 inches of concrete. Now, if that concrete is reinforced with lead, it can be much smaller. But gamma radiation cannot even penetrate 13 inches of concrete unless it's at levels coming from, say, a very powerful explosion like what occurs in the sun, nuclear fusion, basically. The most important things we should make sure we have for the next 2 weeks. All right. The most important two things I would say to begin with would be to make sure you have enough food and water. Now, it is winter, so a lot of times people may not consider part of their preps is like kerosene heaters, something like that in your home. Because if we lose the grid, living up here in Michigan, if I didn't have a kerosene heater, and the grid goes down, I would probably be in a lot of trouble because it gets really cold up here. So if you live in a very cold area, then having heat is one of your primary concerns, but definitely food and water. Now, my situation, I also incorporate a bug out plan into that too. I believe you should have a go bag in case of emergencies. I have several different types of bags. I have my first aid bags. Then I have two different types of, I guess you would call them bug out bags. I call one my go bag or my get home bag, and my other's my actual bug out bag. A go bag is something that I keep in my car that just enables me, to survive for just a very short amount of time. But my bug out bag is something that keeps me alive for a long time. So you're going to want some supplies like that. But the primary concerns are definitely food, water, warmth, and then communications. You can get a hand-powered or solar-powered radio. I've got a couple back here that I didn't give any more than $25 or $30 for, but you're going to need some type of communications if the grid were to go down. You're in Michigan as well, the Patriot Peasant. Trust no one. Galvanized trash can for EMP protection. Actually, that is true. You can do that, and that will work. You just want to make sure the trash can is grounded. And what you're going to have to make sure to do is, like, let's say I was going to use that galvanized trash can to protect, my computer right here or whatever. Don't set the device in the bottom of the trash can. You're going to want something that is not grounded. You're going to want like a piece of wood on the inside the bottom of your trash can. Then set your electronic device on it. Then close the lid. So that way it absorbs that electrical surge and dissipates it to ground while your device is safely inside of there. But if your device is touching the metal bottom of the trash can, it will fry it. Would an EMP detonated over DC cause a nationwide grid down? You're in Alaska. Would Alaska be affected? Most likely not. If you're in Alaska probably not. It would take a nuclear device of 10 megatons or bigger detonated over the center of the United States at an altitude of 30 to 50 miles high to affect the entire United States. And still at that point, it's probably not going to affect you up there in Alaska, but it would take a huge EMP to affect the entire US. If one was set over DC, then most likely, it's going to hit the East Coast. A large portion of the East Coast and over into the mountain and central regions would be affected, but the West Coast would most likely still be safe. Most scenarios call for 3 EMPs because realistically, most nations don't have 10 to 20 megaton nukes. We see a lot of stuff on TV and, we see a lot of movies, but in reality, that's a big nuke. That's a huge nuke. The largest nuke ever was 50 megatons, and that was by Russia. They had designed one at 100 megatons, although they never claimed they never built it and set it off. But the 50 megaton, that was pretty big. It was called the Tsar Bomba. The largest the U.S. ever set off was Castle Bravo. And if I'm mistaken, it was 23 megatons. Now, something to that effect detonated above the U.S. could impact the grid nationwide. But being as the fact that Alaska is so much further off to the west and to the north, I think it would take something much closer to you to affect you. Mad Max, you might be right on that. I don't put anything past the feds or our government, especially after, I don't know if y'all saw a lot of the classified or now undeclassified information that came out today about, that back when that Russian collusion thing was going on, there was a lot of information come out that showed just how corrupt the feds were. And I would encourage looking at that, because it's really discouraging to us, as these are our lawmakers, these are our law enforcers, and they're this corrupt. These are the ones who determine who goes to jail and who doesn't, but yet they're breaking every law in the book. Yeah, Grumpy, Colorado, you're right. You're right in the middle if there is an EMP. Saw something. Yep. Iodine with potassium iodide. That's true. Now that we're talking about that, talking about the EMP and nuclear attack, I had said a while back that once I hit 50,000 subscribers, I was going to give away this, complete CBRN kit, gas mask, CBRN gas mask, CBRN suit, gloves, boots. And I think I'm going to go ahead and give that away next weekend, because YouTube I don't know what's going on, but it's like I'm losing subscribers every day. I don't think people are actually unsubscribing. I think that's YouTube's passive way of shutting me down. So I'm going to go ahead and give that kit away next Saturday. And it's a complete kit. I'll have it out here and show it to everybody, and we'll give it away the same way we gave the last one away. And that's, we'll do like a number draw. So y'all check in on that. Yeah, it's actually, pretty good. It's an MSA gas mask. It's a hazmat suit, complete suit. It's CBRN gloves and CBRN boots. Now, keep in mind, it is a small to medium, and it comes in a duffel bag too. So it's got its own duffel bag that it comes in. And if you ever need it, it will save your life. It's a fully functional kit. So you've had to subscribe a few times now. Yeah, I've had a few other people telling me, and it's like, I might talk about some controversial things, but I don't think I really incite violence, or I'm a threat to, the government on here. So that just shows you how far they're willing to go to shut down people who don't agree with them. I mean, I'm not a threat to them, but for them, things to happen like they've been happening. Well, all right, y'all. We've been going for about an hour, and I guess we'll go ahead and wrap it up and let y'all get back to your Friday nights here. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody, or thanks a lot for listening. And I hope everybody has a good night and a good weekend. I do have a video coming out tomorrow. Hopefully I'll have it finished in the morning, but I should have it finished by the evening. And I think it's something that could be relevant, especially in a grid down situation, since we were talking about that. And it's how to navigate. I did a video about this a while back, but I'm going to redo it because it really wasn't all that good as far as the quality of it. So it's how to navigate and find your way, without a map and compass, how to use just the stars, the sun, and physical signs in our surroundings. So it ought to be pretty interesting for those that, want to check it out tomorrow. It'll be on sometime tomorrow. But all right, everybody, I'll let y'all get back to your Friday night. So thanks a lot for watching. God bless everybody. Serious Survivor.